I'd like to introduce our speaker for the evening. I'm absolutely delighted to have Elaine Nevin here from Eco-Unesco. She's the National Director of Eco-Unesco since 2002, and she's been working in environmental education since 1995. And she's currently also on the EPA Advisory Committee. Eco-Unesco is Ireland's leading environmental education organisation and works a lot with youth. Well, primarily with youth. I think we'll hear a bit more about it now in a minute. And Elaine also heads up a range of projects, including the Young Environmentalist Awards and the Youth for Sustainable Development, among others. I'll pass it over to yourself, Elaine.
Thanks a million, Catherine, and good evening, everybody. And I'm delighted to be here with you all this evening. Yeah, I suppose Catherine, when you said I've been working in environmental education since 1995, that is true. Actually, yeah, it's a long time, and I suppose I started out working. My background would be as a secondary school teacher, so I actually spent a number of years teaching, and then I started, I suppose, doing a lot of work in the whole kind of non-formal youth work side of things, and it was really interesting. I suppose I had the education background and that formal ed background, and then I saw the kind of the benefits of working with young people through that youth work approach, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about all of that through my presentation as well. And I suppose over the years in Eco-Unesco, we've spent so much of our time, I suppose, working to engage young people and understanding what works, I suppose, when you're trying to get young people engaged and involved in environmental action. And I suppose what for us has been very interesting over the last number of years. I mean, we've been working in the field since actually established in 1986. But, you know, in the last maybe 3 years, where young people themselves have been kind of taken to the streets and, you know, protesting. And so there's been really a critical mass of young people taking action. So I suppose now it's looking at all of that and saying, OK, well, what we've all of these young people who are interested and are engaged, and maybe you have young people who aren't interested and engaged, and that's part of all of this as well. You know, you've got this idea that everyone is interested and engaged in this, but they're not. So you have got the interested and engaged ones who are maybe taking to the streets and doing the strikes. Then you've got the others who are maybe in the middle sort of ground and saying maybe I'm kind of interested or not, and they might be doing kind of things like action project work, and it's how you engage those a bit further. And then there's the ones who aren't engaged at all, and how do you get and try to get those involved. So I've got a number of slides here this evening. What I'm going to do is, I suppose, talk to you a little bit about our work within Eco-Unesco, because it's where we've learned so much about how we engage young people. And when we say young people, our main age group are teenagers. So we mainly work with mainly work with 14 to 19-year-olds. That's a very particular kind of age group we have. A lot of our programs are in that age group, but we also work with younger than that, and we have programs for 10 to 15-year-olds. And then we have done some work with older age groups as well through employability programs and all of that as well. So I'm going to share my screen now. Is that okay? You can all see that. Yeah, okay, perfect. So as I said, I suppose we've been working for many years in environmental education, and this scene here, I suppose you have in front of you, is an example of one of the programs that we run. It's a Youth for Sustainable Development program that we run, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that and some of the methods that we use when we're working with those young people who are, I suppose, teenagers, mainly 15, 16, 17-year-olds. I mentioned a little bit about our organisation already. As Catherine said, we're a leading environmental education youth organisation, and our mission is to channel the passion and energy and enthusiasm of young people into environmental protection and positive environmental action. So all of that energy that they have, or all, and whether it be for environmental protection or something else. So I suppose what we say is that young people are very enthusiastic, and how do you kind of channel that into the positive environmental action? I suppose that environmentalists, because we work, of course, in the environmental world, and we're mainly concerned with environmental protection. So how do we channel that passion into environmental protection? I'll talk a little bit about the direct youth programs and the awards initiatives and the other things that we run. We are affiliated to UNESCO, which is the United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organisation. And really the approach that we have to the work that we do, it's very much thinking globally, acting locally. So it's that local Agenda 21, that old local Agenda 21, where, you know, we were looking at those big picture, I suppose, issues, climate, of course, biodiversity loss. So you're looking at those huge issues, and you're bringing them to that local level. Because really what you want is that young people and that people in communities, I suppose yourselves, you're feeling some way empowered to take some form of action. Because of course what we found is that when you're working with young people and they're talking about climate issues, sometimes they feel quite overwhelmed, and so what we're trying to do is help them to channel passion into environmental action and to do sort of positive actions and do it in a learning. The idea of practical learning and learning by doing and project-based work. As I mentioned, I suppose our mission is a sustainable world where young people are actively engaged in protecting the environment. And I've spoken already about the mission of the organisation, which is all about, I suppose, channeling that energy that young people have. So some of the stuff that we do, we have environmental youth education programs. So these are direct youth programs that we run with young people, and they include workshops. We have an after schools clubs program. We've got Youth for Sustainable Development. We've got Young Environmentalist Awards, and then we also have education resources. So people who are working with young people, we support people who are also working with young people. So if, for example, we run training courses, we have education resources people and engage specifically, I suppose, with teenagers is our main target group. I suppose I mentioned a little bit about this, you know, that the young people being extremely concerned about climate change. We know that we did a survey last year and over 77% of young people came back. They were aged 15 to 25, saying that they were very to extremely concerned about climate change. Across Europe, they're also saying this, and they're saying that the environment should be protected, and they're fighting, I suppose, themselves for climate change. Or for climate action. What we see as well is over the last year that young people in Ireland have been reporting feelings of social isolation and a loss of connection with each other. So for us as an environmental youth organisation, I mean, we work in environmental protection, but we also work in youth development. So and we think that that's been the success to the model that we have as an organisation, because it's for us, it's really important that our young people's confidence and their self-esteem is built, that they develop skills. So we have a focus on that young person development, and that has been really important for us. And I think it's meant that we've developed programs that young people want to be part of and they want to stay part of as well. So I mentioned the anxiety feeling as well. Kind of a new enough thing, really. What we found, you know, when I've been working this a long time, and we've over the years through, say, for example, our Young Environmentalist Awards programs, I've seen, for example, the environmental issues that young people have been interested in. So I've seen the trends that have been there. So certainly at the start, there was a lot of focus, I suppose, on waste issues, but young people feeling that they could, certainly that their actions were very important. But certainly over the last, maybe I'd say 3 or 4 years, that feelings of anxiety and overwhelm, I wouldn't have seen that earlier on. And that's certainly something that we're seeing much more of. I just mentioned this as well about the survey that we had done, it's actually on our website, and it is an interesting read if you work with young people. This is what they're saying. We did the survey. We had over 1,000, I think it was 1,043 young people from all around Ireland. So we ran it with spunout.ie, their a youth organisation. So it was and we specifically ran it with them because we didn't want people to come back to us and say, oh, of course your young people are going to say that because they're involved in an environmental organisation. You know, of course they're going to be that concerned about the environment. No, for us it was very important that it was representative. So we did the survey with over 1,000 young people, a very big pretty balanced mix between rural and urban. As I said, over 77% of them saying that they were very extremely concerned about climate change. They were saying as well that there were barriers to tackling climate change. They felt that no one listened to them. So we asked them about barriers. They said that they feel that they're not being listened to. They might say stuff, but they're not being listened to. That they have a lack of skills. They felt that they didn't have skills in maybe public speaking or organising or communications. That was another one, and these were barriers for them to them taking action. They also said that they didn't know how to get in touch with politicians and decision makers, and that was important for them because they as I say, highlighted that they felt no one listened to them, and that they want to be listened to by decision makers and policy makers, and that they felt there wasn't enough information how to get involved. So they were saying that, that they felt there wasn't enough information how to get involved in taking climate action. In another place as well, they said they felt they hadn't enough skills, and some felt they hadn't enough information and this was very focused on the climate side of things as well. And they did say, and which was interesting, that they saw that they did actions themselves. So over 89% of young people, they were reducing plastic waste as a way of taking action around climate. And then they were also saying that they felt that the role of big business was regards to climate change and government. So they want a systemic change, but they really didn't know how to go about it. That's kind of one thing that had come through the survey. So for us, I suppose, why do you bother engaging young people? You know, they're not, I mean, some people, politicians will say, well, okay, you're young people, they're not voting as yet, you know what I mean? Or they're not whatever. But of course, it's so important to engage young people. I mean, we've been, as I say, working with children and young people for since our organisation was established, and actually it was established by a group of young people themselves. So, I mean, engaging young people, it's very important in communities. It provides a way in which young people can feel valued within a community. Because, you know, there can be these ideas that, well, young people, they're not that interested, or they're disaffected, or they're that group over there that we're not, or they're teenagers and some of them are causing trouble, or they're not in, or whatever it is. So really, it's really important that young people, and that's just the bad stuff. That's not what we think. That's what that's sometimes you see it in media. This is kind of how the stereotype of the teenager kind of is put out there. So I suppose it's important that young people feel valued in their communities. And it's a way in which, say, young people can express their ideas and feel empowered to take action, because they want to feel valued. The engaging young people, it also increases their confidence, it increases their self-esteem, it's good for the young person, and it gets them engaged in local life and hopefully in the decision-making processes, because that has been seen to be really important as well. Young people do want to be involved in decision-making. The engaging young people increases their knowledge increases the knowledge of the local areas. It builds their understanding of systems that exist in local areas, of, again, decision-making processes and how they can influence them. And then, of course, it builds relations between young people and community leaders and teachers and others within the community. And so I suppose older people can hear about young people's views, and then young people can hear about older people's views, because actually that intergenerational dialogue is actually really, really important. And there's more and more talk about how we should be working much more across generations, rather than, say, just having something that's maybe focused on youth, even though I think that it is important. We need our youth programs and youth work, but that there should be spaces and places for that intergenerational dialogue as well. So I suppose in terms of what young people want, what they've told us, I suppose, when we've been talking to young people, they want to meet like-minded young people and make friends. They want to connect to the communities. They do want to take action, and they want to develop skills for their future. So these are some of the things that young people are saying. I suppose from a community's perspective and from mentors, it's important to respond to the needs of young people. So it's very important to hear what young people want. Ask them what they want. Ask them what they need, what skills they need to be developed. It's very important as well to be positive role models. Young people can see when, it's that whole thing that you're not doing, you're basically saying something different to what you're doing. So it's really important to be a positive role model. Very important to help young people, I suppose, succeed. You're there as support, embracing and acting on their actions, I suppose, creating opportunities for them to be involved in the community. And again, the decision-making has come up a lot, including them in decision-making as well. And all of these, I suppose, are images of stuff of young people that we work with. And we do a lot of work through action projects, and what we've seen are the benefits of action projects. And I think when we talk about these with young people like to know what the benefits of what they're doing are. So they like to know, well, this is it's improving my skills, or it's helping my confidence. And young people are very articulate. They're very well able to say, well, look, I understand completely that when I'm doing action or taking action for the environment, I am protecting the environment. That's really important. But I'm also doing a lot more. I'm also developing a lot of other skills. I'm building I suppose, my communication skills. I'm helping local communities. I'm improving health and well-being. The young people are developing critical thinking and empathy, a whole area of active citizenship. They're engaging with, they're actually doing experiential learning. They're out in local nature and urban environments, which is really important. They can engage with experts and influential adults. They feel empowered through taking action, and they're developing the confidence. So there are, huge benefits to doing this action work and taking action at that local level. So I suppose some of the ways and methods for engaging young people and what we have seen over the years, making your programs young person centered, having initiatives and actions projects, they should be empowering, and where you can, they should be led by young people themselves. So young people want to, they want to get involved, and if you kind of provide the framework, and I'll talk a little bit about those type of frameworks you provide for young people to take action, they will actually take a lead, and as long as they're supported, they need support from an adult, and they might need support from the youth worker, but they will respond to taking the lead. I suppose it's very important to listen, as I said, and hear what young people are saying. So that whole idea of, doing a needs assessment with a group of young people at the start, finding out what it is they need, finding out what it is they want to learn, what are the skills that they want to develop in the program maybe that you're going to run, what do they want to do, as part of being involved in the local group. Really important to I suppose, to listen to them. I mentioned already the meeting like-minded young people and making friends. Really important for young people that they are actually making friends. It is often, we found that young people come along to our sessions. Some might have been interested in environment and sustainability. Others are just there because their friends are there. And what we found over the years is that the people have just come along as kind of tag-alongs in some ways. They've come along just because they actually end up being so engaged and so involved. They're learning something new. They didn't know about environment, some environmental issues. They felt also a place where they could be themselves. They've often said that place that's comfortable, where they can be themselves and where they can meet like-minded young people. That has been really important. Making it fun. It's always important to make something fun, make it exciting, interesting, engaging for young people. Just, and I'll talk a little bit about some of those methods that we use. Peer education, we found over the years, we developed a peer education program. And this is all about young people learning from each other and upskilling each other. So there is that whole, with peer-to-peer learning. Young people, we know that young people are key influencers on each other. So if they're key influencers on each other, how we developed the program, we were thinking, well, those young people who are interested in environment and sustainability can then work with their peers and actually build awareness. So, and peer education does, it does work. It's very impactful with young people, and they really like working with others. Providing incentives, I suppose one of the things we do with our Young Environmentalist Awards is recognise and reward the work of young people for the work that they do in environmental protection. They respond to being recognised. Now, it's not so much, we did surveys over the years about the reward piece of it, getting the prize or getting the whatever it is. For a lot of the young people, being recognised and having a cert of participation, sometimes that was just what they were looking for. They were happy to be involved. And what we found was it wasn't the big, it wasn't the big prizes or the big award that was actually making them, they liked, when you talk to them, they said, well, we liked getting the cert and we liked having our picture taken, so they want to be recognized though for the work that they're doing, and have someplace that they can showcase that work. Can you share it with others? How do you share that work and show the great work that they're doing? Because that's really important, kind of highlighting the stuff that and the good stuff that they're doing. And what we found as well, regular meetups, that sort of regular sessions where young people can come together in a youth group or a club, and they have that regular meetup. And we found that was really important. And then also, I suppose over the years, we've found, say, through our Young Environmentalist Awards, that providing clear guidelines and frameworks within which young people could work. So yeah, you're there like as maybe as a support worker, as the adult being there. But if you have the clear guidelines and frameworks within which young people can work, and for example, we have a 6 steps framework for action projects that we use, and we find it very, very useful. It works very, very well with groups of young people, and with getting them engaged and involved in action project work. I suppose we also use a youth work and non-formal education methodologies, and very much for us, it's all, we use a lot of interactive approaches. You see some of those photos there, kind of just web of life activities and practical hands-on kind of activities. We use a lot of group work, so young people work in groups. They learn from each other. They develop skills and they build confidence. We incorporate a range of methods in the work that we do, and games. So we'd incorporate music, arts, dance, film, the outdoors a lot. And as I said, we use a lot of outdoor education as well. But yeah, important to try to mix it up, I suppose, a bit. And again, you're going to have young people who you might be working with who may be interested in some of those areas. And of course, from an awareness raising perspective, from environmental awareness raising perspective, using the arts, using dance, using film is actually really important and can get, I suppose, out as well to different audiences. In terms, I suppose, of the youth worker, I just put this in here because, of course, the youth work, as a youth work organization, the youth worker is that adult worker who works directly with young people. And the youth worker is focused on the development of young people through non-formal education activities. And the youth worker listens to young people and bases their work on the needs and interests of young people. So youth work, it is about developing young people through these environmental, for us, it's developing young people through environmental education activities. And that's kind of where we start. So we'd have young people at the center of the work that we do. Keeping young people engaged in the long term can be often more difficult, I suppose, because you have your program, you run it. So how do you keep them kind of coming back? And how do you keep them involved? Because once you have them involved in your youth program or in your environmental project, you really do want them to continue engagement, because they're now, I suppose, maybe upskilled as well. So what we found is that maybe upskilling young people and developing their leadership skills and those peer education skills has been important. So with our Youth for Sustainable Development program, for example, we've been running it. It's an after schools program. We would run it. They would have a 12-week program initially that they come along to. Then they do an action project piece. And then we have a whole kind of leadership skills training program that they can come on to. And then we have a QQI, actually, we deliver a QQI peer education program with them. So we can kind of have a framework where we continuously kind of work with them. And then the idea being that once they're trained up, they can then lead on projects with other young people. That's the theory. I would say, I won't say it always works that you have loads of people coming back all the time. What we do find is that we had young people engaged maybe over a 3-year period, which we would find actually that's pretty good from a retention perspective. So you have them engaged and involved that length of time. And then what you find, and what we found, is that actually some of those young people who we've trained up, they come back again and they say, can we volunteer with you? Can we get involved with that project again? We'd love to be a peer educator and a youth leader. So that's that, having kind of some sort of framework. I think having a clear progression path, as I said there, where they can come maybe through training or youth program, and then I suppose you show them how they can remain part of the program. I mentioned earlier, making it clear the benefits to the young person. So what are they going to gain out of being involved? Because they will gain skills. They'll gain a lot for their CVs as well, so making it kind of important to them. Not being afraid, of course, giving young people responsibility and providing opportunities to them. The top photograph there on the right, those young people have come through our Youth for Sustainable Development program, and they attended, they came through the program and they applied for this, but they attended a UN conference for us back in, I think it was Easter of 2020, it was Easter 2019, and they attended that. So that was just it was a recognition piece for us. We were saying, look, it's a great opportunity, and so it's fabulous to give young people, I suppose, those opportunities to attending, for example, COP that is happening at the moment. I know there's a lot of young people from around the country have headed over to COP as well. And they're bringing then that learning back into the community, which is really, really important. Decision making is important as well, encouraging and engaging young people in decision making. Having young people on your boards or having young people on your committees, and listening, I suppose, and listening to young people. That's really important. It'll make, I suppose, it makes it more relevant. With action projects, build on their action projects and their ideas. I mean, I often think with action, we do a lot of work, as we said, through action projects, environmental action projects, and specifically local environmental action projects. So with these action projects, they often have a lifespan. But I often think that there's something about it. Can we I suppose continue to engage the young people in developing and growing those action projects and bringing them maybe somewhere else with them and for them. I suppose the whole area of media and social media, we've over the years, of course, have developed a lot through our own, our own media and social media, because of course social media is where it's at for young people in terms of communication. So communicating through channels that they know, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and things like Facebook and Twitter are outdated for them. They don't use Facebook and Twitter at all now. So and I mean, what's the next thing? I don't know what the next thing is going to be honest. All I know is that Instagram has happened, and then Snapchat I think first, then Instagram, and now TikTok. So yeah, we don't know. And I suppose one of the things here I have, and it's a remember when working with young people, so this is kind of for groups who might be new to it, that you have to ensure you have child safeguarding policies and guidelines in place in line with Children First. And of course, this includes Garda vetting and safeguarding statements and procedures and training. So you have to have proper procedures in place, basically, for working with young people. This is just a case study of an ongoing, I suppose this is a project or an ongoing youth development program. This is our Youth for Sustainable Development program. This is where a group of young people who were involved with us for around, I think, 3 years, and these young guys and girls did an action project. And it was related to the Dublin bike scheme, and they basically got the leap card at the time because it wasn't. They found, I suppose, and it was a really interesting one because it was from a young person perspective. They said they didn't have credit cards, so how were they going to be able to use the Dublin bike scheme? And so they thought it would be great if you used a leap card. And that was kind of the first time that actually anyone had thought, well, maybe you could use a leap card for more things than just getting on the train or getting on the bus. And so they lobbied, and they went to the local council. They spoke to Dublin City Council. They then went into the ministers, and they did a whole load of lobbying work until eventually their leap cards were able to use them on the Dublin bike scheme. So they actually it was very successful. And I suppose seeing their work affect that change was very empowering, I suppose, for them as well. And this was another, I suppose, case study, and I mentioned to you about young people being involved in decision making. This was a structured dialogue event, and these are some events that we run. They're youth summits, but they're called structured dialogue. So it's a very specific space where you created a dialogue space for young people with decision makers, or for young people with community adults. And this was with Eamon Ryan at the time, when he was leader of the Green Party. And so he attended this youth summit event. And it was that real opportunity for young people to meet decision makers. And they said that was really important. Of course, when we asked them what was the thing that they enjoyed most of the youth summit, we thought maybe it was going to be one of the outdoor trips they'd done or going somewhere else. They said it was meeting the experts and meeting the decision makers and meeting the policy makers. So young people do want opportunities to do the structured dialogue, or to dialogue with people in these positions. And I suppose how we can help as an organisation, we run the Young Environmentalist Awards programme, so we do support groups to carry out these action projects locally, and we have a 6 steps framework training and a programme manual as well. You can see that it's just in the image there. So that is it is a really good framework for doing projects with young people. We have got a as I said, I mean, we go through all in the manual that we have all of the 6 steps, and we have a whole range of activities that you can do from step 1 to step 6. So you just get the group together. How do you get the group together? How you develop a group contract? How you how you can basically come up with, I suppose, one of the steps coming up with the project idea. It'll tell you how to get a group together, how you brainstorm with them to come up with the project idea. It also looks, for example, at how you get a team together and identify different skills that you need maybe in the project group, so you can do a skills audit. So there's loads of different tools and loads of different activities within the toolkit, and it's a great way of doing a framework that you can use to do action projects and then be involved in Young Environmentalist Awards. It is actually a motivator. It does actually motivate young people to get involved. They do love getting involved. We have an Eco-Dens semi-final that they come along to and have to present their projects to a panel of experts. So it's really kind of developmental. And then we showcase all of the work that they do and put it all on websites and everything. So we want to, and it's showcasing all of the work that young people do in all over the country. The other things that we have a youth program, the Youth for Sustainable Development program, and eco clubs. And we can support groups who want to participate in these programs and set up groups locally. We have a manual, we have supports there that we can basically assist people who want to set up those type of groups. And then, as I said, we run youth events. So these things like the youth summits that we run, that structured dialogue event that we organised, and we organise annually. They're great events for young people to get involved with. So we'll have those in 2020, 2022, and groups can get involved with those. And then we also have the Young Environmentalist Award Showcase and other things we have workshops and education resources. So they can help you. The education resources are there. Again, if you're working with young people, you can basically pick up one of these resources and say, okay, how do I carry out a certain activity? What we resource, what on earth is sustainable development? And it basically does interactive activities on sustainability or on biodiversity. So all of that is available as well. I'm going to just quickly go into, just very quickly give you an overview of the Young Environmentalist Awards. I know I've spoken a bit about it there, but as I said, it supports and rewards the work of young people who want to take local environmental action projects. We have 3 age groups, so we run it from 10 to 18. You've got a super junior, the 10 to 12, junior is 12 to 14, and senior is 15 to 18. And we run, as I say, an annual showcase every year. And we get amazing projects in, we showcase amazing projects. And I think it's fantastic that young people, what happens at any kind of event like this, of course, is that young people get an opportunity to be valued for their work, but then they also learn from each other. There's an awful lot of people looking at the different projects and the initiatives that others are doing, and there's learning that's brought back into communities then from that type of engagement as well. I mentioned the 6 steps, that's the 6 steps framework. As I say, in our manual, we have activities that go along all of these, so you can actually, it's a step by step with the guide, and you could, from getting the team together to selecting the issue, to developing a plan, taking action, raising awareness, and then reflecting on what they've learned. That for us is very important. So, okay, now you've done that, stop, think. What have you developed from a personal perspective? What environmental impact have you had? How many people have you other people have you reached from doing the project? And yeah, so it's a really good way, I think, of just taking stock. And then, is there anything else you want to do with that project? Okay, you've got this great project that you've done, but now what can we do with it? Are you just finished with it? We'd like you to, we always like to, we'd like you not to be finished. Obviously you'd like longer term projects. You can't force longer term projects though. You've got, they're going to have to want to do it themselves, I suppose. That's the thing. So, but you can help and you can support and you can create an environment that they may want to continue with some of those longer term projects as well. These are just some examples of projects, I suppose outdoors, like developing and creating outdoors classrooms, doing vegetable gardens, pollinator gardens, sensory gardens, litter picks, outdoor games. For people who set up, well, I mean, I'm sure we've had people who set up eco businesses online, running health and safety campaigns, lobbying businesses, politicians. It should be, I mean, we always say, I suppose, with the awareness raising side, we always like people to lobby politicians anyway, whatever project they're doing. It was really good to raise awareness and to go to your local authorities. One of the things we like to do in the YEA action projects is for them to look, sometimes they do these in the schools, but you want them to look further, you want them to be in communities, and you want them to look and learn, I suppose, a little bit about the political system locally, and look at the local authorities and find out a bit more about what they do as well. And then just at the side there, you had some of the winners of the Young Environmentalist Awards, a project. This was a senior project, Me Bags, which was an overall winner. It was an eco health and wellbeing project, which was done in the Youth Reach Centre, and they basically got a lot of offcuts, and they created really they created bags for themselves as well. And then the one at the top was a plastic-free initiative, where the whole school became a plastic-free school, and that was a very successful project as well. I think I have got a video, but I actually didn't I don't know whether I'm going to have to stop sharing and maybe share it again, because I don't think I don't think I put the sound on. So I might play it, and if it doesn't, I'll just I don't know, can you hear that?
No, there's no sound.
No, okay. I mean, maybe if you want to, I can just look. I'll continue on, and then I can send it on the link. It's basically it's a group of young people who did a project down in Cork, and it's the young people themselves just talking about how they got involved in the initiative. And it might be something that people would be, and we can send it on. I mean, I can always send out these on or share it with people afterwards anyway. And I think that's probably the end. Yeah, I mean, I have another, I suppose I just want to, just a final, I suppose, case study was our Youth for Sustainable Development program, but I mentioned that already, and using the peer education model and developing leadership skills, and I've spoken about that already. So I think that was kind of, I was just going to finish off showing you an example of young people taking action doing these projects. They, as I said, that particular group were down in Cork, 2 young girls, did a whole kind of project on, it was a litter pick in their local area, but it wasn't just a litter pick. I mean, they'd done a whole load of research around the whole Bay area, and they found that because it was, they discovered that basically commuters going into the factories were the ones who were throwing stuff out the windows, is what they were reckoning, and that actually along these kind of routes into these areas that this was what was causing the problem. So they then did a whole piece of work on. They did practical litter picks, which is kind of pretty standard. You have that, but then what they did was they went into all of the companies along the area, and they did talks to the employees, and they ended up raising awareness of the importance of not throwing litter, I suppose, and then got in touch with local authorities as well. So it was a really nice kind of local project where these two young girls, I suppose they were 13 and 14, got involved and engaged. But there's lots of ideas, and there's lots of projects like that are out there. And as I said, through our Young Environmental Stewards program, we've got a manual, but we've got finance booklets which shows all of the different types of projects, just for inspiration, because sometimes you need to be inspired as well in terms of what can be done at that local level. So if anyone is, I'm very happy to take those.
That would be great. We have one straight off in the chat just about the resources. Are they open to everyone, or are they just for in-house?
The resources, the Young Environmental Stewards resource, if people register to do a project, you get the manual for free. I mean, our Young Environmental Stewards is open, and we want to encourage people and engage to get involved with us. So if you register with us, you can get that resource. And I can probably give it out to people if you're interested, because I would like to. We do want to encourage people to get involved and to get involved in these action projects, because we know that they're hugely, I suppose, impactful from a young person perspective. But yeah, we'd want some sort of registration, I suppose, from people. The other resources then are you can purchase some of the other resources from us as well. But again, if you're interested in getting involved in the project with us, then we can talk to you about that. If you're interested in some, is youth climate justice? Sorry, yeah, there's another question popped up there.
Okay, brilliant. So I guess anything that is open to the public will be on the website, and then for anything else, get in touch with
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we have an e-learning. I mean, we have a new e-learning section to our website. We have a new e-commerce section, and we do sell our resources. But again, if you're going to register with us and do a program or a project with us, then that's different. Then we basically can work with you. And then we have training courses. We have a 6 steps to success training course as well. So if people want to take that on, young people can actually do that e-learning course as well. So we have a lot of different kind of resources and courses and workshops and all of that.
Okay, fantastic. And on the same kind of note, is the Youth Climate Justice Survey available to the public?
It is, yeah. The Youth Climate Justice Survey is available online. I could actually probably, we could copy and paste it into the chat there if we want it. I can see.
That'd be great. It's handy.
It's on our website, and it's open.
Fantastic. That would be definitely interesting to see. Lots of really inspirational ideas and stuff coming from that talk. My head is buzzing. And another next question then, Eugene, we bring education to communities and retrofit homes. You have covered. So what advice would you give on the first steps to get youth engaged?
I suppose I don't know what your yeah, I suppose for young people they'd want to see what, I mean, is it I suppose is it you know marketed or communicated in a way that they would be, it's of interest to them. And I wonder, I mean, in terms of where it's going to, are you using the right channels? For example, are you using your social media channels well enough? Are you making it very exciting? I suppose young people, they'll want to kind of engage with something. Is it clear what they're going to get out of it? Are they going to develop new skills, new knowledge? Does it link to anything that they have to do in the curriculum, for example? Is it going to be, I mean, I would be looking at that saying that's a future skills. Is it about building their skills for the future? So there's just something about, there's a few things there. It's kind of like the communications channels, is it getting to the, are you using social media effectively enough, I would say. Without seeing the information you're pulling together, is it kind of engaging and youthful and exciting enough, I would say.
Yeah, and sometimes even hard to get adults to these things.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, and if they run in the evening as well, they can be often doing other things, I suppose. So.
And the next question we had there was from Francesca, a question more for the adults. One thing she hears quite often is making young people responsible for coming up with solutions and projects. Is there a clear understanding that children, because they are still children, are not responsible for the current situation? And while they should be involved in resolutions and social change, they should not be made to carry the load. So just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I mean, and certainly what we don't do is we never have young people kind of carry the load. But I think what it does is, I suppose what we do is that we're, I suppose, trying to kind of develop them and their own ideas. You're trying to build their own confidence. We don't say to them, the responsibility is yours, the environmental responsibility is yours, because that's not the case. The case is different. But what we want to say is that young people have great ideas. Young people should be heard and listened to, and that their ideas and their actions are as valuable as anyone else's. I suppose that's where we're kind of coming from. That we're giving young people a platform to, if they want to, come up with solutions to these environmental initiatives. And I would say, why not give young people an opportunity to do that, to be part of a solution if they want to be, but not saying that they're responsible, of course, for the current situation, which they're not. But it is developmental. Yeah, it's a developmental process for us. Action project work is a developmental process of not just about, it's not just about environmental protection. It's about developing the young person as responsible citizens, I suppose, not just for here and now, but for when they're older as well.
Yeah, and I guess I would feed into a lot of the anxiety. I kind of feel that a lot of young people do feel like they have to do something and they have to take action right now. And if they can come along to something like that and be given a pathway to actually achieve something, it can be hugely beneficial and for them, and knowing that they can make that difference. As I said, they're not carrying the load, but they're, if they want to do something, then it's they just need that kind of the adult-led part in all the organization of something and the nitty-gritty things that they don't really know how to do yet because they haven't had that experience.
Yes.
I'll take one more from the chat and then go to Sean and then back to the chat. So Orla asks, what sort of certificate does your organisation give to young participants?
We would give them I suppose it's a certificate of participation from ourselves. If they do, we do have some QQI training courses that we can deliver. So we have a community development level 3 course that we deliver, and we have a peer education for sustainable development course. So they're actually proper, I suppose, proper, I'd say QQI accredited course certificates, but otherwise we give certificates of participation. So they're just ordinary certs, yeah.
Okay. And Sean, you had your hand up.
Yeah, and I mean, I just very quick comment on that. Now, I think that I think that there isn't enough outdoor education, experiential, nature-based education done in our schools. It's not prioritized, and I mean, once I think young people get into secondary school, there's very rare that they're outdoors or have any opportunity to get outdoors at all. Everything is done. So much is done in indoors. So I would agree completely. I think more outdoor, more experiential learning, different methodologies as well. I suppose Steiner has a very particular kind of methodology, way of working. And I suppose it's interesting with COVID, the fact that a lot of schools have these outdoor classrooms, but we should have more of those spaces, those outdoor classroom spaces, all over the country and in all of the different schools. Yeah.
And just a question on schools. It seems to be the kind of, well, if I was thinking on, getting youth involved or doing a collaborative project, schools would be the first thing I'd think of to go to and ask to help out and get involved or do something along with the curriculum. What's your experience of approaching schools, or is there a good way to go about it, or that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of work with schools, and we would work a lot with the secondary school system. It's in terms of getting to schools. If you're going to your local schools, obviously it's your depending on how big your program, or if you want to just get involved in the project, it's often the best place to start is often your principal, I suppose. If you can get them involved, and particularly at a local level, it might be easier to kind of get to your principal. Otherwise, you would be often going to, we do a lot of our work in transition year. Transition year is the space where there's a lot more, it's a year that has a lot more space for action project work and for extra kind of curricular work. So going into your transition year coordinator would be important. Again, all of the schools, it's kind of to remember that they've got curriculums, they've got a curriculum, a national curriculum to follow. Even if it's transition year, they're going to be looking at skills, developing skills or competencies in young people. So you go in with that kind of, understanding what skills and competencies your program is developing in young people. And I found that schools can often be very open, but again, it kind of does depend on the person you're dealing with.
That's a good tip, though, to focus on what the students get out of it and how they develop, rather than they'll get information or, here's some stuff to get involved with. It's very much so focused on the growth of the individual, which is good to hear.
Yeah, and of course now, I mean, obviously environmental now, we know that environmental issues now are coming to the top as well. So, the environmental side, climate action in particular.
Definitely. So there's some lovely comments in the chat, and just one last question. So I think we'll end with this. The last question being, where did I lose it there? From Rebecca. A lot of young people are educated about global environmental issues, but they don't know much about the issues in their local area. How do you encourage them to care about local issues?
Yeah, that's a very interesting observation. I think that there is that, looking at it from the bigger perspective, or the looking outwards. I mean, I think it's about getting them out and about. I mean, I would say something again, maybe that whole nature-based approach and getting them out and about into nature. I suppose if it's an environmental issue we're looking at, and bringing having sessions with young people where you're looking at those global issues, but you don't deal with them in isolation. You bring that global issue and look at it from that local kind of perspective. Or you then talk about local issues and saying, how does that local issue affect the global? So, you can start from global if you're dealing with groups, or you can start from that local. And what we found is actually when you start with that local, getting them to look around their own local community, it can you know, can open up new, I suppose, yeah, they learn a lot themselves, as I say, about that local space. And as I said, but it is good to get them to look at that the global perspective and bring it back to that local space as well. Hopefully that made some sense and answered your question.
Yeah, I think that made a lot of sense. Yeah, definitely. Okay, that's brilliant. So we've just hit 8 o'clock. I'd like to thank Elaine for your time. It's been absolutely great. Wonderful inspiration and tips and tricks and all sorts of things there. Lots to think about. And to thank everyone as well for coming along. If you have any further questions that we didn't get to, do put them in the chat now, or you can get in touch with me at catherine@ien.ie, and we'll see if we can answer them or give you any support. I will send out the slides from today and a video, and any other resources and stuff that were mentioned, you'll get all them as well. And yeah, other than that, thanks everyone for giving up your hour, and I hope to see you at the next one.